Hello, Pete.
Hello, Anne. We're both sat there saying, "Who's saying hello and welcome?" So let's say it together.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Oh, dear listener, I suspect that you are just hoping for that day when Av and I actually know what the fuck we're doing with this. But we're just here. We're just humans. We're just having an
Yeah.
amazing time having these amazing conversations with amazing humans. How are you, Av?
I am fabulous. Thank you, Pete. Thank you. How are
You
you?
you spent quite a bit of time surfing recently. I think that's made a big impact for you.
Well, I'm learning to surf. Let's not say that I'm actually surfing well or confidently, but thank you. Yes. And it's something that only I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it's a feeling that only a surfer knows. And I heard another surfer say that, and I went, oh, yes. And it's
Say that again. I missed that.
surfing, the whole point or the magic of surfing is something that only a surfer knows.
Okay.
Because when you're out there and it's just you on a board and you're in Mother Nature and you're in the ocean, there is something indescribable about that connection and being in not only being in nature, but being enveloped, inside the ocean and riding and just being a part of the energy of Mother Nature. And that's kind of magic.
I want to experience it.
I'd love you to. If you come out here, I'll hook you up with a big 9-foot board and we'll get you out there.
There's no if about it.
Oh,
It's just
yes.
a question of when.
Oh, can't wait.
Yeah.
That will be brilliant.
Talking about when, there is something coming up in the future that we've got some exciting news about for our listeners,
Yeah.
haven't we, Av?
We do. Are we going to reveal it now?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah,
Okay.
before we get into this next episode. Go on. I'll leave it to you.
Oh, thank you. So we are very excited to announce that very soon, as in, is it next week? We
Next week.
are going to be launching our very own 6-star business community. Yes, indeed. All these amazing people that we've had on the podcast can't just come through our podcast and disappear. We realized that it was almost like an obligation to us, wasn't it, Pete? Because of who we are as people and what we're here to do in the world. And we kind of got that very early on in the podcast space, probably, I don't know, 8 weeks ago, maybe less. But we realized we kind of had this similar dawning of realization and just said, look, we need to do something here to bring all these people together and continue the conversations in a meaningful way that enables people to connect, learn, grow, and trade in that 6-star business experience.
Yeah, the conversations that we have found that we're having too meaningful in so many ways, personally and professionally in a business context for so many people. When you get messages from listeners saying, I was shouting at not shouting in a bad way, but like wanting to be involved in the conversation, that they were listening to one of the podcast episodes, that there is something which people want to be involved in, outside of just these 1-hour conversations that we have. They're just the tip of the iceberg. They're the thing that kind of just keeps the ball rolling. The real transformation that's required in our personal and business lives is going to happen in community. If you think about any meaningful transformation, it happens inside community. So like you absolutely hit the nail on the head. It was an obligation on us to create this community where people that, so dear listener, if you listen to more than one episode, I suspect there is an element of resonance with you around 6-star business concepts and principles and ethos and values, and there is now a space for you to connect, learn with and from other business owners and humans who align with the same principles and ethos and eventually trade with each other, but it's that connection, that connection in order to facilitate the transformation necessary in business for every business on the planet to be a 6-star business and to have 6-star business at its heart. That's what it's about. So we're hugely privileged, honored, humbled in a way to have the responsibility. This space is being created for you. So we would love to have you there. community.6starbusiness.com.
Yeah, ditto what he said. Absolutely.
And the conversation that our listener is about to hear, do you want to say a little bit about that, Av?
Yeah, I think I was going to say the same thing as you, Pete. This conversation is one of the reasons why we needed to create the community. And we had no idea how this conversation was going to go, just like all of the rest of them. But it was one of those magical sparks that happened at the beginning, and it just kept setting off this chain of firecrackers all the way along. And we could have kept going for like 3 hours. Marusha is a dear friend of mine based in the US. She is an expert on communities. She's been building communities for many years and doing that successfully in different spaces, online and offline. And then you've got Brian, who is an intellectual, an extrovert, and just brought so much life and fire and fun to the conversation to actually demonstrate how community works in his life, personally and professionally. And the conversation was just alive.
Yeah. So much so that up to now we've been, apart from the football episode, go back and listen to the one with Chris Thornhill and Kevin Burt if you want to know what I'm talking about. We have been releasing each podcast episode chronologically in the order that we've recorded it. But this conversation was so important to us that there's no queue. We've reshuffled the publication schedule and bringing it to you now. So with that said, sit down, stand up, wherever you are, strap in, because as I've said, this is a firecracker of a conversation, and we'll see you at the end of it to say farewell.
These outtakes are hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone. And here we are on another exciting episode of the 6-Star Business Podcast. Pete, I am super excited about this one, and welcome to our guests. We've got Brian Redbeard Keith. You may hear of him being referred to as Redbeard during the podcast, and we've got Marusha Murthy.
Hello.
Wonderful to be here.
Lovely to have you.
Welcome both.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. So to get started, what I would love is, how about you, because all our listeners know who Pete and I are, and they don't know you. So how about we start by introducing yourself? Just tell us, I guess where you hail from, like as in where you are in the world, and what you do, as in who you serve and how you do it. Maybe something a bit personal about yourself that our listeners can create that little knowing connection with. So that would be wonderful. Who wants to kick off?
I'm from Olympia, which is between Seattle and Portland in the northwestern US. Company is Redbeard Consulting. Been helping small businesses automate things and deploy better systems since 2012, which now sounds like a long time ago. And for the personal stories of stuff, we could either go in the climbing mountains route or the medieval sword fighting route, which I started when I was studying abroad in Wales and almost lost my eye in a sword fighting accident. Either way, or you can just fill in the blanks there, your choice.
What do you prefer doing most? More the mountain walking or the...
I've actually stopped sword fighting. I retired a couple of years ago. I'd been hit in the head enough, and I was also dealing with some post-divorce mental lack of acuity and forgetfulness. And I came across enough literature that suggested that the micro concussions you get from sword fighting or any combat or contact sport can have severe memory issues down the road. And so I decided, I was like, I feel sort of dumb. Like I'm not mentally all there, which, grief-related memory loss is not a new thing, right? But to experience it, whew, that's new. And so I said, okay, I'm done with getting hit in the head on a regular basis.
Nice.
Wise move, sounds like. Marusha, welcome. How about you? Who are you?
Hi, I I hail right now from Orlando, Florida, and I think, the easiest way to describe me is that I am an architect on all things culture and all things community. I basically for my as my body of work, what the thing that I do for a living is I support a lot of visionaries who have big dreams and big visions to take this idea of bringing people together to create impact, and I help make it happen. And I make it happen through really helping them focus on what that larger vision is, breaking it down into actual tangible ways in which that shows up into the world, and then helping them deploy with their teams or with my team to make that actually happen and develop out those relationships to create more impact in the world. So that's what I do for a living. And a fun fact, gosh, I mean, I have so many fun facts. I mean, no, but truthfully, I think the one thing that popped in my mind as I see this picture behind me of some very important people in my life is that my mom is one of 11 children, which puts me as number two in a sea of 39 first cousins. And it really is why I kind of am the crazy community lady that I am today. I'm that person. We've moved 8 times in 16 years. My family, my husband and I, and our 3 kiddos. And wherever I go, I tend to be that person in the neighborhood who's like, "Hey, we're gonna do a potluck. Who wants to get to know the crazy family that just moved in?" And then we just build a whole community around that. So it's kind of the way I just know how to do life is through people and with people.
Wonderful. I'm so excited to get to tap into both of your geniuses in this conversation. It never ceases to amaze me how quickly, in talking with someone that you never met before, you can find a point of connection and affinity. My mom, Marusha, is the eldest of 12, and I'm one of 42 first cousins. So I know all about the large family gatherings. It's great. I wouldn't give up being part of a big family for anything. So wonderful. We know a little bit about you both, but one thing we don't know is why you're here. And then I'll sort of provide the context for that. I don't, I'm not being rude or anything. Is when you, so Brian, I'll ask you, when I first told you about the 6-Star Business podcast, what was it about that concept of 6-Star Business that grabbed your attention and held your interest long enough to show up here for an hour to chat with us?
Because the last time we did a podcast together, it was wonderful. And while it was so long ago when we sat down in person in San Diego to record a podcast, I recall it being a soul-filling conversation. And I couldn't even tell you the details. But when I find people where you have a conversation and you leave the conversation, your heart and your soul are like, yeah, like you just had a bite of your favorite food, that those are people you should spend more time with and invest in, even if you don't know what's going to happen. Because the kind of output that comes out of that, and especially when you're involving other people in the community, it just tends to go make the world a better place. And that's why I'm here.
Bless you. Life's happening in Marusha's house. Listeners won't see it, with the door opened and a little child wanted to get involved, which is great. I love
my children forget that sometimes mom works, and they forgot that door when it's closed means that I'm actually not available. So welcome to my life.
Yeah, good. It's good to be part of it for a short while.
My mother worked in her home office, and her rule was you can only knock on the door if you are bleeding or the house is on fire. Yeah. And so I remember as a kid, we'd occasionally knock because, my brother stole something or whatever. Like he stole the Legos. And then, she opens the door and she's like, "Are you bleeding?" "No." "Is the house on fire?" "No." And you'll learn after a while, right? And I find in life that really, those are the main two things that are a problem. Adding some projectile vomiting, etc. But really, it's mostly those two things.
Yeah. There's been a decent amount of Zoom bombing, and usually that door is locked. So maybe I should go do that now because I think it's getting close to dinner time, and there might be more wanting to come in. So give me 1 second, and I will make that happen.
That's one of the admirable things about this year is that as more people have transitioned to working from a home office experience, we get to see more and more, both the people are people with lives, but also the resilience in transforming our environments. And there's so many people who they've taken their environmental awareness where they go to an office where someone else decides what the office is going to look like. And it's not their responsibility to control their office environment. And now people are like, whoa, it's my responsibility. And you have all these people who are really leveling up their awareness of what really makes me feel best? What really paint color matches my skin tone? What kind of lights do I want? And we're just upgrading our awareness of, I'm really responsible for my environment. And if I'm responsible in my office, maybe I'm responsible in the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty profound.
Too profound, too fast. I know. Back to
No.
bleeding noses
never.
and houses being on fire.
But Marusha, I want to give you a chance to respond to that question as well. When you first heard from Aveline about the concept of a 6-star business, what was it that attracted you and kind of held your interest long enough to show up this afternoon?
Yeah, great question. I really enjoyed my conversation with you, Av. Like, I really enjoyed our initial, when we first met, I got to have the pleasure of meeting you, Av, through a mutual colleague of ours and a mutual client of ours. And I was going through that client's portfolio of what she had been creating up till the point where we first started working. And I was absolutely blown away by what you had created alongside her. Blown away. I've never seen it in the 12 years of running my business virtually. And so for me, I remember calling Amber and I said, Amber, can you introduce me? And so then we finally had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know each other, and I recognize that we really are standing in business in a place that's very aligned, and a place that of really elevating the impact and the experience of our customers and our clients. And I think that, to me, speaks a lot, because I feel like we're in a world right now where this online world is the current Wild West, we're not on horse-drawn carriages with, guns a-blazing and our cowboy hats or anything, but we are in some ways doing that because we're trying to figure out, who do we trust? How do we get to know one another? How do we get to really create alignments with the people that are going to be, if I send business to Av or to anyone here, do I know that my person's going to be cared for in the way that I would want them to be cared for, right? And so that, to me, is important. So anything that Av wants to do or is creating, I know is going to be of that top-notch quality, and I want to be a part of that.
Wow, I am humbled. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Wow. Yeah.
I love the Wild West motif. It makes me think about how we don't even know how to eat anymore. In terms of what do we eat? Do you remember back in your school days when everyone around you ate mostly the same, right? Like school lunches when I was a kid, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, most kids, maybe a thing of milk from the school. Everyone had cereal in milk for breakfast with maybe orange juice if you're being healthy. I just did a podcast episode on this about consensus reality and how it's gone. That we all used to know who we were. And now even, you're talking about the Wild West, Marusha. Well, okay, what do you eat when you're working from home? And so you can eat anything sort of, but then also it has to fit into, like, you have kids you're managing and you have this huge life. Well, okay, well, how long do you eat and where do you eat? Do you eat at your desk, or is that a big no-no and you always eat in the dining room? It's open game. Like you can do whatever you want. So how do we know what's right?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Redbeard. Like, truthfully, I think that oftentimes we want to expect, and I think in our minds we expect that people are going to be in the same boxes and the same containers, which make us feel safe, right? But really, we're now in a place and a time where two things are happening. Number one, everyone can claim anything. We can all decide today that we have been expert firefighters for the last 15 years. And we can say that by word. And really, unless someone does the research, they would probably know that none of us are, unless someone here is anyway.
But I was in search and rescue for roughly 24 months. And so I actually have been part of that, but not on the firefighting side of things. Now, would you please attempt to fact check that claim? Right? We have no idea. It happens to be true,
Exactly.
but it's the credibility thing you're talking about here. How can we know, except for people you've met, like we've met, right?
Right.
Then I can know. But even then, have you ever met someone and believed something about them, and then later on you discovered, whoa there, you were taken for a ride. They were not representing reality. So even us, I have met you face to face. We've had dinner together. We've broken bread. Even that's not reliable. So how do we know how to trust?
Right. Right. And I think it's just one of those things that at this point in this day and age is we have to see the proof. We have to see the experience. And so in the case of Av and I got to experience her work as someone digesting it, really understanding it. And I was like, this is amazing. This is really, really, really helpful. Wow, more people need to see how to really take someone's story and understand and help create a nurturing process around their story, around their offer, and all those pieces that need to be in place to make that happen. I was just really impressed, and I think that's it. Like it helped me put that container of what I'm expecting when I work with somebody in business, and I have that container. I have going to like the food idea, right? Everything's fair game. Everything's like anyone can do whatever. And at the same time, we all have these like containers of expectation. And my container of expectation is that, if someone's going to say that they're going to do something, that they go and they're going to do it and they're going to do it well. There's a level of quality to that. And so for me, when Av met that container, I was like, I have to know her. Like, I want to know more people that are part of that container versus just hoping and wishing and praying and trusting someone that I haven't yet had the pleasure of working with. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah,
Pete, do
totally.
you remember that picture of me and you when you were interviewing me down in San Diego? There's a picture a buddy took, and the two of us, we have our big old fancy mics, we have big old headphones, and I'm wearing my kilt, of course, and a nice vest. And do you remember the picture I'm talking about, Pete?
I think so. Yeah.
Having mind's eye.
Was it Jeremy Fuse Desk guy took it?
Yeah, Shapiro took that picture.
Yeah.
Could well be. But it's this beautiful picture of like we are really into whatever it is we were talking about. Like we were there. And we had this experience. And here's the interesting thing. Because we're humans and we're designed to live in these tiny little tribes where we know everything about the 25 people we live around, I make the assumption, man, I had a really good time then. Therefore, Pete is an expert on everything he says he's an expert on. Because at a human level, I think, well, obviously, he's my tribe mate. Like whatever he says must be true. Because if it wasn't, I would know about it because we're living in a tight 25-person community and we're around each other all the time. That's like actually, let's not point there. Let's point like brainstem. Like this part of the brain says, therefore, everything Pete says is true. Mm-hmm. Even though I know that it's faintly possible that maybe domain expertise does not transfer for other people, just like it doesn't transfer for me. Like search and rescue, I know something about what I'm doing. Firefighting, good luck. Use a fire extinguisher. I don't know.
So what implications does that have for us and our listeners as business owners in attempting to, establish and be and perceive to be a 6-star business?
We have to understand our own limitations and talk about them honestly. On my membership call last night, where I have my Redbeard Accelerator, I was walking people through this process of as I'm changing how I'm doing social media syndication for my podcast. And I showed them all this stuff and I'm in the middle of so many projects as I'm leveling up the podcast. And when I asked for feedback after that particular session, 2 of the people said, we really appreciated seeing your work in progress. One guy said, it's just seeing you work. And this idea that I was not presenting this, I'm the best podcaster around. All my systems are done. The sales page is perfect. There's none of that. It was, I'm in the middle of changing this. Here's why the old system wasn't as good as this system. Here's what it'll look like when it's done. But I'm not going to finish it before I launch it. I'm going to get just this little bit done. I'm going to launch that while it still is sort of embarrassing, but not fatally so, critically important. And they got to see this thing where the selling of the authenticity is, I'm going to go be honest with you about all these things that are not done very well, but they're done well enough to get results I want. And then you're going to say, he's being honest with me about this. He'll probably be honest about these other things because you're human and you expect people to act consistently.
I like that, Redbeard. I really do. I think that's a really good point. It's just really being honest about, and one of the things being on, let me finish that sentence. Being honest, you would think I've had a glass of wine. We were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
I have some in the kitchen, my favorite wine, like I'm up for it.
But really, being honest about what our limitations are. And one of the things I talk about a lot is recognizing that we're in a new era right now. Obviously we're in the Wild West, that aspect of it, but also we're in a new era of developing out businesses that are based around what I call the 2 core things, humanity and heartbeats. We are, the old school marketing approaches of, direct response, like, hey, buy this chocolate. I'm eating some chocolate right beside me right now. Buy the chocolate. It's the best chocolate ever.
Hold on, are you eating Lily's chocolate?
Yeah.
That is also the only kind of chocolate I eat almost always. For folks who don't know, if you are into not consuming a lot of processed sugar, Lily's is the very best of the easily available chocolate companies that's around. They have like 10 different kinds of flavors, all the way from fake milk chocolate, because it has no sugar in it, right? All the way to dark chocolate, crispy rice, all this. I find it hilarious. I have never seen anyone else other than my fiance ever just eating Lily's chocolate. And here we are. And the kinds of people Pete and I have attracted onto the show happen to both be Lily's chocolate people. Utterly hilarious. I just finished up in April a month of no sugar, no processed sugar of any kind for an entire month. And so I had some Lily's chocolate that month because I'm not having anything else. And so I know that the one you briefly flashed is the milk chocolate style chocolate because hilarious. That synchronicity, right? You end up being in sync with other people who share similar values, which is just, or is that the milk chocolate or the salted caramel?
No, it's the extra dark,
Look at that. I actually never eat that one. That's my excuse for not knowing the difference between the 10 different labels. My credibility, once again, I told you I knew what I was talking about. Fake news. I got the wrong chocolate brand. I brand the wrong type.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, Lily's chocolate. We need to get them to be a sponsor of this episode, by the way.
Yes, please.
That was really good direct response.
Good point.
Go to Lily's Chocolate right now, lily'schocolate.com. I don't even know, Lily's.com. Yeah. So what was my point? My point was, so we're in a new era. We're in a new era. Yeah. I talk about humanity and heartbeats. I've been in the world. My husband and I both have been in the marketing world now for, he's been in the marketing world in the online marketing world since 1999. And I joined him in 2007 and then really jumped on in 2009. But we've been in this space for quite some time to see kind of like the old guard of marketing, having been the marketing approach. And the whole time, I have a background, my master's is in counseling, I have a background in leadership and identity development. And I would look at him and I'm like, this is great, but it's not connective. Like people will buy it in the moment because it's fear-based, but really what we care more about is the humanity behind those numbers that we're making. What if we actually cared about the people? How would we talk to them differently? How would we reach out to them differently? How would we actually be aligned with that, with who they actually are? They have heartbeats. They're not just a pocketbook. And I really do believe that in this day and age, our world, we're kind of just fed up with being direct response to death. Right? Like we're done having those sales page after sales page over and over again. We need to remember that the person on the other end has feelings. They get angry just like we do. They feel joy just like we do. They have desires and passions and curiosities just like we do. And so what if we imagine a world where our marketing is really just relationship building? And that we are now aligning ourselves, our sales processes with where they're at and supporting them and providing that value where they're at instead of feeling like, well, you're going to miss out. So if you miss out, well, then too bad for you. You'll never have this opportunity again.
Are you saying that you've taken your Dan Kennedy t-shirt and put it back in your dresser?
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
Yes,
exactly. All the Dan Kennedy t-shirts, like they're all back in the dresser. What about Jeff Walker? Is he still wore it on Tuesdays?
I never had a Dan Kennedy t-shirt. The funny thing is, like my husband loves them, studies them, and there's a place for that. I think it's taught both of us how to write powerful, like effectively and getting your point across. And the relationship is missing oftentimes in that kind of way of showing up. And so I want to make sure that we, as we continue in this journey of growing companies online, we recognize that what if we actually gave a damn about the other? Are we allowed to cuss?
Yes.
Well, absolutely.
Dan didn't have the tools, right?
18.
Dan was getting at he's gonna write a letter for a client and get paid $30,000 to write a letter. It's gonna get mailed to 20,000 people, and he's trying to get 100 of them to buy. That's what he was the utter master at, and then he line extension out towards everything else. But he couldn't have a relationship with the 20,000 people. He couldn't have a relationship with 100. Tools weren't there. And then, but because he was amazing, like my first marketing book I ever got was The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. So many of us started like Dan Kennedy's we started thinking, oh, this marketing thing might have some legs. Like that was the origin story. But then,
Right.
Marusha, where do we go now from a Dan Kennedy focused universe? If someone came to you today and said, I want to read a book about marketing, what do you hand them in place of the ultimate sales letter?
That's a
Great
really
question.
good question. I'd love to hear the response from all of us. I think there's a few different books that I've been diving into, and honestly, they're not oftentimes markety books, right? They're books like Priya Parker, The Art of Gathering, right? And it's really going back to the basics of relationships. I think we're in a time and a place where I've recognized that a lot of people are afraid to really build a full relationship because they're either afraid to speak up and share whatever's on their heart and their mind, or they're afraid because they don't know how to handle what if what they say actually will make a difference. Can I handle that load, right? So it's going to the thing that I would imagine, Redbeard, that you're really into, which is the systems. Like, how do you manage this impact that you want to make in the world? And I think the truth is when we start to, like, for me, the books that I tend to go to are books about systems, are books, and then because that's not my strength. My strength is more on the relationship side of the conversation. And so I want to know that, I want to understand that, but then it's also understanding more about how do people connect and what are the things that are stopping us from fully being able to connect. And then bringing those in to the marketing space. So I'm trying to think off the top of my head, what are my favorite books right now?
I have a follow-up question to the follow-up question. Marusha, do more people fail because they're afraid of succeeding or because they're afraid of failing?
They're afraid of succeeding. Absolutely. Absolutely.
How does
You know,
someone recognize the difference? How do you feel the difference between being afraid of success and afraid of failure?
that's a good question. One of my favorite books, speaking of books, is a book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap. And it really talks about this concept. Have any of you read that book, The
Yes.
Big Leap? Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
aware of it.
Amazing book.
So good, right? It really dives into this topic. And the premise is that, oftentimes we think that the reason that we fail is because we are afraid afraid of failure. We're afraid of being rejected. We're afraid of all the things that, afraid of, like, the fear of what people are going to say, that kind of thing, or afraid of just failing in general. But the truth is, if we're really honest with ourselves, we're actually afraid of our own success. We're afraid that if we're too big or too visible or too loud or too whatever, that something will fall apart, something will break. So he talks about this glass ceiling of success. And oftentimes when we get close to it or we hit it, we self-sabotage. And we do something to, maybe it's a fight with your partner, or you make a business deal that goes really wrong, or things like that, and really how to begin to break out of that. Yes, I do. I definitely agree with him and believe it is the fear of success. How about you guys? What are your thoughts?
I was just going to say that the easy way to tell this is true is take whatever your gross revenue was last year and then add a zero to it at the end, not at the beginning. And then ask yourself, what is the kind of person you would have to be to become that person who had an additional zero on the end of your gross revenue? And then ask yourself the question, how would your relationships with your friends, family, spouse, children, free time, hobbies, business partners, how would all those relationships change if you were the kind of person who had an additional zero on the end? And the answer for all of us is, ooh, doesn't matter where you're at. The answer is, what friends might you lose or not be able to relate to? Maybe you still love them. I mentioned sword fighting earlier. I had some really dear sword fighting friends when that's what I did. My primary identity was sword fighting all the time. I was Barvgach, which means Redbeard in Welsh, because that's where I started sword fighting. And that was who I was. And so I had all these friends. We were so close. And then I tell you what happened when I retired from sword fighting. You already know what happened, is we stopped having as much to talk about. And how often do I connect with these best friends of my life nowadays? Almost never, because how often I'm in armor on a battlefield now is zero. And that's that's obvious. You stop playing water polo, your water polo buddies fall apart. That's obvious. But you add an additional zero to your revenue. And we humans, again, we're designed to live in 25-person tribes. And doing anything that takes us out of that, it's really dangerous. Because if the tribe says, I don't know, you're a bit weird. Like, you have the wrong kind of tattoo or the wrong piercing, or you said the wrong thing. Like, I don't think you deserve to be around a fire anymore. You're going to freeze to death. And this part of your brain knows that. So it's going to make real sure you don't get that extra zero in the wrong place. Put on the front of the number. That's safe. And even once we know this, though, how do you fight against that? How do you accept it and work through it? It's not obvious, because you have to look at, is it actually worth getting the additional zero on the right side of the number if I lose some friends? What if I stop being able to relate to my family as well? What if right now in your business, your take-home pay is, roughly that of, let's say, a sibling, or let's say an aunt or an uncle? What if now it's 10x that? Maybe right now you're bringing home around 100,000 US. And what if you brought home $1 million US? Could you still relate to your friends? And if you're not sure, like, absolutely yes. A, if you think that, you're wrong. But B, if you don't think that, then you have some resistance, right? I don't want to lose my friends. That's horrible. I don't want to have awkward Thanksgiving conversations at dinner. That's horrible. And I, being a good human with this part of my brain, I'm going to do everything I can to stay in the box where it's safe.
I'm just sensing that they're, again, talking about boxes again. It's like this, that we have the theme going on around boxes and containers, and that's just fascinating to me. We're really looking at this conversations. We talked about success, failure, the fear of all of that. Talked about, the Wild West, and wanting to make sure that we work with the right people. And it's really making me wonder how we're creatures of habit, right? Really, it's kind of like almost like our conversation. It's really around this, like the boxes of habit versus what else is possible. And I don't know, it just makes, I have really nothing else to say around that other than it's just a
I-
insight. It's just more of like a moment of like, fascinating conversation.
Brian and Marusha, you've both been talking. I recognize that my heart's been beating quicker, and I'm thinking of talking about something, and the sensor in the front of my mind or back of my mind or wherever that is saying, no, you can't possibly talk about that because this is a public conversation. Other people will hear it. But just what has come up about fear of success and failure and sabotage and whatever. And I just think, well, if we can't have these sort of conversations in this kind of space, irrespective of who else might be listening, then where the fuck else can we have them? Because the thing that is on my mind is probably the reason that I'm feeling the way I do is because it is so important to me and to Av as well, is the 6-Star Business community that we are forming around the 6-Star Business podcast, because we've had so many positive reactions and responses from people about what it is that we're talking about, that people have said we want to carry on the conversation beyond the podcast. We want to hang around other people that are talking and thinking about these kind of things. And I want to be vulnerable with you here. I'm scared of fucking up. I'm scared of sabotaging what it is that Aveline and I are just absolutely passionate about bringing to the world, if you like. And I'm not quite sure what to do about it. I mean, Av's looking at me like, I don't know how Av's looking at me, but
I have the answer. It's from Musashi. Do you know the name Musashi? Greatest swordsman of all time from Japan. A lot of the Japanese samurai ethos comes from what Musashi wrote about. And one of the things he said is that a samurai should be able to, after he has received a fatal blow, still do one perfect cut. That is to say, after you've been gored with a sword, you have enough presence of mind to, even as you're dying, with your last breath, do one more perfect cut against your enemy. Take that, combine that with the Stoic idea of, if you ever think your life is horrible, you should go and stop what you're doing, close your eyes, and then imagine doing your everyday tasks without any sight. And actually think about brushing your teeth, cooking dinner, taking your dog for a walk, and then open your eyes again, and then like, whoa, life is amazing. I have eyes. This is incredible. Combine these two ideas, the one last perfect cut and the, oh my goodness, you have eyes. And that sort of points you at okay, so you're creating this community, and what's the worst that can happen? You embarrass yourself, your family, people want to stop talking to you, you lose a lot of money, you get sued, and you go to jail. That's the worst that can happen, right? You probably won't die from having a business idea go poorly, probably, most of the time. So Musashi would say, okay, accept that that's already happened, and have the oomph to go do one more perfect thing, even as you accept that you've already lost. And then from the Stoic idea, like, yeah, except that all this is gone. You've already embarrassed yourself. All the friends who would leave you because you're a total mess up have already left you. Your family's already embarrassed to have you around the table. And then go from there and say, okay, well, that's true. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do next? What is worth doing in the face of utter and complete failure? And then if what you're doing is still worth doing, do it. And if what you're doing is not worth doing it, then maybe don't do it and figure out something that's actually worth doing even after all that calamity has befallen you.
That's wonderful. A lot to think a lot to think about in that. And as I am thinking about that, there's something what you said, Marisha, about the sabotage. And I don't know if it's just me, but you mentioned it, so it must be something that is it part of the human condition? Is it common? And how do we prevent it? Because that might well be the thing that is stopping people from having a 6-star business, is that they get so far and it's that last thing. So I think it's on
hitting the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Being afraid of their own genius.
Absolutely. And Av, definitely fill in with me based on what Gay Hendricks has said, because it's really powerful. The whole book is really, I highly encourage everybody here to read the book, because it goes into the reason oftentimes for sabotage is because we're not seeing ourselves as big enough, and we're not living into our level of genius, right? So there's various levels of competency, if you will, and each of us has a level of genius. It's just a matter of if we're giving ourselves permission and tapping in to living in the level of genius, or are we playing in the level of excellence? So when we're at excellence, oftentimes that's what's where most of us play, is in the excellence level consistently. And so there's things like, for example, I know for me, areas of excellence for me would include creating training programs, right? It's actually something recently that I recognized with myself. I'm like, oh, I love to create content. I love to create training. And I do, but it's an excellence level. It's not my genius level, right? For me, genius level is really, to me, and there's just a couple things that are in our genius levels and for each of us. But for me, it's relationship building, and it's really creating actual connections with people. Like, that makes my heart so happy. And there's nothing better than that for me. It's like breathing to me. It's so much fun to me. And when I've led from that place of my genius, I have found that I've been able to really expand not only my level of energy and my understanding of time. Time feels like it just flies. And it also slows down at the same time. It's just like I'm in it, right? And I'm in that space, and created more income, revenue for myself over the years consistently when I'm at that level and only doing that. So, but it's scary, because sometimes I think to myself, well, can I really though? Like, can I make money just by building a relationship? How do I do that? And sometimes I find myself in that place of like, no, I doubt myself. And then I go back and I self-sabotage. I'll go back and I'll be like, no, I have to create the program, I have to create the program. Right? Now, for some other people, that their level of genius, their genius is in creating the programs, but that's just not mine. And so it's just fascinating to recognize what is each of ours, and then to own it, and to just really be able to claim that. And also, I've read that book 7 times because I need reminders consistently to remind me, to help myself say, okay, no, what do I really want to develop for myself, and how do I want to do that? And then with that being said, who do I need to partner with and collaborate with to in their level, in their own areas of genius, to build a better world, to build a more impact-driven experience for everyone involved. That's what I've been really leaning into lately. Yeah.
Wonderful. I've only read it once, and I only recently thought I really need to go back and read it again. And it's everything that you're saying is obviously exciting and heartwarming for me, because I'm really passionate about truth and transparency and understanding how we're shifting and changing and evolving. And as we're connecting here on this podcast conversation, it's like I'm looking at it from all these different perspectives, sort of looking at it over here, and this, and what I'm seeing is this beautiful evolution, and our world is in this societal transformation. Like Redbeard, you've been talking about this, the different perspectives of managing our workspaces and how we manage our food and our families and our friends. And we're in this fascinating time of transition, and it comes back to us as people and how we relate to ourselves, yeah, and how then we relate to others. And I feel like we're being challenged to break down those walls of sabotage and limitations and the borders between each of us, because we need each other in life as much as business. Business is life. There's no separation to me. So I have a genius, you have a genius. It's not the same one. And so Redbeard, you have a genius. Pete, you've got a genius, you know, and by working on bringing that out, honoring each other's geniuses, we can work together to create utter amazingness. And I feel like the challenge is us shifting the mindset from the isolation model of how we operate and being on our own in business and life, and being, you know, stoic and having these walls, and, you know, and bringing those walls down, and understanding we are human, and human also brings with it fear and doubt and those things that can hold us back. And that's what I love about the Big Leap, you know, just acknowledging how we do go through those shifts and changes. But I feel like we're in a fascinating time, and I'm really excited to see how we evolve over the coming year, 2 years, 5 years, and I wonder where we'll be in 5 years.
The big shift happening is from an institution-based society and world to a network-based society and world. And one of the institutions says, here's who you are at work, and then there's a big old wall, and there's here's who you are at home. And that institution, and for some of us, it started eroding a decade ago or 2 decades ago, but now for the majority of us, suddenly this comfortable wall, we can lean against it, it's gone. Or the idea between who you are. Well, I once said to a friend, I was talking to him, and I said, oh, blah, 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 work friends, and I was including him in that group, and the buddy said, no. There's no such thing as work friends. There's just friends. And I thought at the time, well, no, there's people I know through work and people I know through other areas. So he's just being pedantic. And then over the years, I thought, oh, what an interesting idea. And as I'm reflecting on it now, the idea of you have your work friends, you have your mountain climbing friends, you have your neighbors who are friends, you have your soccer playing friends, your guitar playing friends, that this is one way of looking at institutions instead of looking at a network-based world where you have yourself and you have the people you're closer to and the people you're a little bit beyond there. And then like Pete knows this person, that person knows this person. And so we have this shift. And part of this sabotage thing is we're trying to stay, but we're sort of mismanaging the shift on an individual level from an institution-based world to a network-based world, because none of us knows what it's going to be like. We don't know how far through the shift we are. We don't know, who am I if I'm not Brian Keith, founder of Redbeard Consulting, LLC, founded in 2012. If I'm losing that institutional label, or that institutional label is losing its meaning, and I'm turning into this amalgam of me as a mountain climber, shooting instructor, gardener, beekeeper, farmer, sailor, and this is sort of now this gestalt of who I am, people are going to care about this more now. Like this whole business thing, like in a box, the borders have dissolved. That transition is hard, and we don't know what to do. So we run for the safety, right? We run for like, oh, I'm an owner of an LLC. I'm a Keep certified partner. That's who I am. I'm like, that transition is it's uncomfortable at best.
That is so wonderfully profound. And my gut tells me is true.
Yeah.
Network, connections, relationships.
We don't know if it'll take like a month or a year or a decade or 100 years to make the shift. It's like, this is the same level of shift as going from pre-printing press to printing press that completely changed the political landscape, first in Europe and then everywhere else. Took hundreds of years, huge amounts of wars and lives lost to deal with the fact that we now had a printing press. That's the level of societal change we are in. So if anyone listening feels occasionally lost, or like, my work-life balance sucks, or I don't know how to define what I'm doing at work, or am I really trying hard enough, or whatever it is, it's okay. You're in a printing press level change in society. The best you can do is acknowledge that, and then go listen to people who are virtuous and leading you in a positive energy direction, like the 6-Star Podcast, and go move with people who also don't know where they are, but at least you're moving together. and really tap into that 25-person tribe feel. Because no matter what the institutional network change is happening, you're still tribal at heart. I've done now 3 episodes on tribalism with expert John Robb on my podcast, where we talk a lot about the nature of tribalism. And we've been sucked into thinking our tribes are huge, like nation states or everyone who looks like me or whatever, when really our brains are designed for very small tribes, like 25, maybe a maxi tribe of like 150. And we have to go sink back into that and say, my tribe can actually be like these 3 podcasts I listen to, or these 10 business people I really admire. It's okay to have a small tribe and not to worry too much about trying to care and expand my empathy out to 1,000 different people.
So powerful, Redbeard, truly, because I mean, the work that I do in community, I pride myself on having built so many communities, because when I realized that I had built so many, I was like, holy cow, I really did that. Like, I didn't realize, I just love it. I just love it so much. And you're right. I think about the communities that I've designed over these, really 22 years. My first half was all face to face, and then I jumped online and I figured it out online. But in developing these communities, I think about as you're saying, the 25 people around you, the communities that I've had the most fun developing from the stance of the connection and the depth of beauty that showed up from them were the ones that felt like mini families, right? And I remember I designed a business incubator with my friend Ryan Moran back in 2015, and we worked together for a few years. I was in his company for a couple of years, and he was building a business incubator to partner e-commerce brands with investors and with influencers. And the goal was, his vision was, what could we imagine could be created? What kind of impact can we make in the lives of those influencers, of those e-commerce brands, and those investors, and the people obviously that are receiving those products, simply because we're building businesses faster, because those three tribes, if you will, are having their own individual conversations. But what if we can bring them all in the same room? Can we, what was that word that he would use? Catalyze the amount of time,
Accelerate.
Accelerate, thank you. Accelerate the amount of time that it would take to build this out. And that felt like a really fun challenge to me. But the way in which we did that was, of course, we would have, the thousands of people in the space together, but we created then these little family communities, right? These subsets of the larger experience so that they would get to know their little cohort.
What number was right for you?
In terms of how many were in the cohort, we would typically do anywhere from 8 to 12 in a group. And what we found was, when we had those smaller group sizes, and they were all, so there's a couple things that we would do in there. We would have them in smaller communities, and then we would have mentors who are maybe a little bit ahead jump in to support every so often. Right. But the truth was, they were holding each other to being able to raise one another up, then coming to the larger group as a cohort, as a family group, and then supporting. The long and the short of it was, in addition to seeing these individuals, raise their revenue and grow their revenue much faster than they would have alone, many of them ended up being in each other's weddings. They're godparents to each other's children. You know what I mean? Like, life happened together. And that, to me, that is it, right? That's exactly what we're talking about. The boundaries are now beyond, oh, these are my work friends, or these are the colleagues that I had as part of this community. It's all about building together and raising one another up. And I think that's really the shift. That's the conversation we really needed. I want to invite people into as well, is how do we really begin to elevate the conversation from work friends, mountain hiking friends, girlfriends down the street, et cetera, to a conversation of of community raising communities up, right? And how do we really just be able to see each other as people who have all these amazing interests, and then as we meet other people that also have those interests, we can connect the dots, right, for each other. Like, oh, you need to meet so and so. Oh, you need to meet so and so, and come at it from a much more boundary-less experience overall.
From a place of abundance. That in the institutional model, knowledge used to be expensive. And so the institutional model is based on, you're going to protect information. And there's big boundaries. Like, unless you've gone to Harvard, or Yale, you're not past this boundary. So these people are worth a lot of money because they know stuff everyone else doesn't. Think about even the Union of Stonemasons, right? The Masons was initially we're going to make sure only our people know how to do this stuff. If anyone else learns how to do it, we're going to kill them, literally, because only the people in the guild get to know. That's the institutional model par excellence. But now we're in the YouTube will tell you how to lay bricks world. So we need to let go of the tribal affinity of only people in my group matter who know how to do my thing, and we're going to be militant about it, and instead say, I need to choose my tribe really intentionally. And I probably can't have like a dozen different tribes. There's not space in your heart. You all know Dunbar's number. The 150 people is the max number of people you can care about. If you think about a tribe, a local tribe being maybe 20 people max, that means you only get to have 6 tribes. It's like one sword fighting tribe, one mountain climbing tribe, maybe one podcasting tribe. You got to be careful because your heart can't be open to 1,000 people. And if you try to, it won't work. And you'll be the person who just reads Facebook updates thinking you're talking with your friends, but you're just reading the updates that they put on their phone while they were alone, wishing they could hang out with you. That's not living. We have to look at who am I actually going to connect with and who will I actually go see in the next month, year, whatever, to really get this cohort like you're talking about and do that for all areas of our lives and recognize in all areas of life, the institution is dead, or it's dying. And if we have to go intentionally look at what networks, what small tribes are really going to serve us the best and what ones do we really align with? And one last thing, that we don't have to align with this tribe and that tribe on everything. My mountain climber friend tribe and my firearms instructor tribe, not a lot of crossover. That's fine, unless a prerequisite of being part of the shooting instructor tribe is you hate mountains, or being part of the mountain climber tribe is you hate guns. Like then it won't work, right? But that almost never actually exists. Mostly these people are mountain climbing nerds and these people are shooting nerds. And so I can show up to each one and be like, hey, I'm all in while I'm here. Like this is all I'm doing is climbing mountains together. I don't even have to talk about guns, or I don't have to talk about climbing Mount Rainier for the second time. We can just talk about guns and have that division, but still me get to be part of these tribes and show up with my full self and give up my full self.
Pete, I'm wondering what you're thinking.
You see those wise eyes, they're going,
What? Well, you asked me the question, so I'll answer. What I'm thinking right now is that we're at the bottom of the hour and it's time to wrap it up. But I desperately don't want to. And I'm also thinking that I can't wait to be in the same physical space as the three of you that are on this call. And the amount of travel that will be required to make that happen, be damned, because it's going to happen. I feel deeply privileged and honored and humbled to be part of this specific conversation and the ongoing conversation about 6-star business, because it is just taking on Av and I have a brief conversation after the podcast to record the outro, and it'll be an interesting one after this, because this episode has gone like, if we thought we had any control over the conversation around a 6-star business,
and you invited us on, what were you thinking?
Right. So yeah,
I do have one question.
Institutions have blown up.
I have a question for Pete and for Av, to put you on the spot while we're recording. If you in one sentence were to define the tribal ethos of 6-star business, of the 6-star business tribe in one sentence, here's who we be, to use Justin McDonald's language. I want you to each think for just a moment before you say it, so you don't compare notes. In your mind, what is the ethos of the people who are gathering together in this tribe to go do whatever it is? Av, what do you think? What's your one sentence version?
We're here to connect, learn, and trade.
Pete, no copying. What's the one sentence?
I said it off the cuff. I don't know if we were recording earlier. Believe in better. Believe in better in everything, in yourself, in other people, in your business, in your relationships. Believe in better.
And so for the folks listening, if those two ideas of the ethos of the tribe resonate in the sense of you're vibrating on the same frequency, then you should probably try to get closer to the tribe. And if they repel you and you then you should probably back away from the tribe, but do so intentionally. Like, this is resonating. I want to get closer.
You know, I really could also, just like you, Pete, I could have a whole other hour on this conversation. It's fascinating. I don't often get to talk as freely on podcasts, and so this was really refreshing. And there's a whole second part to this conversation that I really want to nerd out about with each of you as it relates to, you know, how do we choose our tribes? How do we really create those connections from a level of identity, which really is something that fascinates me. And again, I don't get to talk often about. So if you ever wanted to do a part 2, count me in.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Redbeard, thank you for everything, your genius, your knowledge, and keeping us laughing and humbled at the same time. Marusha, thank you so much. I look forward to having you back. Thank you, Pete. And yeah, that is a wrap today.
Thank you so much, guys. Love you.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
Speechless?
Totally, absolutely blown away. Mind is spinning. Yet on some level, I feel really satisfied. Like there's a soul kind of knowing of just being so grateful and excited and humbled by this conversation.
It was a completely different kind of conversation to the one that we've had before. And I had a sense in the middle of it that you and I have talked and joked a few times about how getting to where we are with this podcast has been a process of letting go of control. So do you remember when we first had the idea we were going to go to Trustpilot and we were going to find specific industries and we were going to invite specific people, and it was you know, and then we let go of that and then we let go of something else. And I had quite a profound sense halfway through that episode of letting go of control of the narrative and the conversation. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I felt it too. A couple of times I was thinking, you know, here's an opportunity. Should we take it back, you know, to business, to Six Star? And I thought, no, because this is everything related to a Six Star business, because we need to understand ourselves. We need to understand network. We need to understand humanity and connection. And this is the shift we're going through. And that conversation needed to be had. And so letting go of control was actually the best thing that we could have done. Yeah.
And trusting that the right, you know, might sound a bit sort of woo-woo, but trusting that the right people will show up at the right time in this container. And we've spoken about that what we're doing really is sort of creating a space, sort of container. It was encouraging to hear Redbeard kind of reference it in that way. Trust that the right people will show up in this space at the right time to have the conversation that needs to be had.
That's it. And that's what happens every time, doesn't it? We just hold the space open and synchronistically, and I don't know, the divine just brings the right people together at the right time in the right way. And you know, having Marusha and Redbeard together was an absolute joy, but also an explosion of opportunity and growth.
Yeah. So are we going to make a public executive decision to keep it at 2 guests per episode?
I think let's make a public decision. Yes, it will stay at.
Yeah. And as Redbeard said, if you have resonated and you get a sense that this is your tribe, then come and join us at community.sixstarbusiness.com.
That's right.
Love to see you and welcome you and hang out with you and get to know you and welcome you to our tribe.
We can't wait. Thank you, Pete.
Right. So I'll be here same time, same place next week. Will you?
We will. I'll be here too. So I look forward to seeing you then, and have a great week.
Well, in fact, by the time this one goes out, we're going twice a week.
We will.
I don't know when we need to make that announcement, but it's kind of just it'll all come out. Anyway, Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.